podcast. I'm riding solo today. Justin had a thing going on, so today it's just myself here. But we're gonna kind of keep to the schedule. And today I've got a really great episode where I invited two friends on, Christian Ganko and Val Soapy. What's interesting to me about this episode is that really all three of us here in early 2025 are kicking around what our next product is going to be, and it's probably going to look like a SaaS, just like these SaaS products that all three of us have built and grown and exited and plateaued and gone through all the war games of the SaaS business for 10, 15, 20 years in some cases here. So it's a really great conversation. One of my favorite things to do is to sort of peer behind the curtain and see what's happening in real time at a particular moment when we're going through these transition phases of going from one product or one business into the next one. And it was a really interesting conversation about how we're all thinking about what it means for our own businesses and things that are changing in the landscape here in 2025. So with that, we're going to hop right into it. And both Justin and I will be back on the next one. But this was a really, really good episode. Here we go. Welcome to the panel. And today it's just three of us. Justin's taking a day off. But I'm Brian Castle. I'm the founder of Instrumental Products, where I'm building some new products this year. We'll get into it.
I'm Val Soapy. I am currently the founder of blogmaker.app and in the process of launching a new SaaS, which I'm not mentioning yet publicly.
All right, we'll see about that.
I'm Christian Jenko. I'm the founder of fileinbox.com, the ex-co-founder of rootable.com, and the founder of a whole bunch of other tiny stuff that you can see on my website at gen.co.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to talk to both of you. One of my goals with this whole show is to have a couple episodes like this one where we're sort of diving into something that's happening right now in our actual businesses. And I listened to each of you on your individual podcasts sometime in the last 2 or 3 weeks, where both of you were sort of talking about the year ahead here in 2025. Val, it sounds like you are actively underway with a new B2B SaaS product. You haven't announced what that actually is, but it sounds like you're in the very first steps and you're actively moving forward on it to some extent. Christian, last I heard from, I don't know when you recorded that, but as you said, you sort of left a partnership. You have some SaaS products in your background. You're kicking around the idea of maybe doing a SaaS, maybe finding employment, maybe doing consulting, maybe a mix of these things. Mm-hmm. I mean, on my end, I have a SaaS that's sort of, I'm running Clarity Flow. That's part of what I do. But this year I'm doing Instrumental Products, which is sort of a mix of consulting, building SaaS products with other clients. And I'm also hacking on some new products of my own, starting with a Rails components library with the intent of using that to build more SaaS products this year. So I want to kick this around. And I mean, the number one question on my mind, I think right now is what is actually leading each of us to consider or actively pursue a new SaaS business in 2025? Listeners of this podcast, if you heard the very first episode where we were talking to Colleen Schnettler and Tyler King, like one of the things we batted around was like how difficult SaaS has become. Is it the same opportunity that it was a few years ago? And but we can't get away from it somehow. So that's where I want to start this. I mean, Val, why don't you talk a bit about a little bit of your background from like last year and everything, and what led you to decide like, okay, now it's time to turn my focus to something new?
Yeah, sure. So I think 2025 will be my 12th year of making SaaS products. I've exited one back in 2021. I started with project management like everybody else. I did a couple of products actually. And the one that I exited was actually project management for agencies. And then after that, I took a break, sold that, exited that. And then Blogmaker, my current active app that I'm public about it, I started that in 2021. It was just a challenge, a personal challenge to see if I can build something for 20 hours, launch it, and see if I can get any payments. And I did that, and I've been on it for what is it, 4 years now. And the thing with B2C is a little bit more difficult, especially for me because I come from B2B sort of background. It's been very tough to sort of get the flywheel going and get a ton of registrations because the price point is lower, etc. And I feel like my sweet spot is in B2B where not all sales are necessarily coming from SEO or outbound and, like inbound, I mean. And what I want to focus this time around, like I used to do before, is more outbound, cold outreach, cold emailing, cold calling. Maybe even at some point, go to a conference or two, maybe have a booth, just go down and act like a service business because that's my initial background. I used to have a web shop. So, this is like one of the motivations to starting this new product. And I think I was lucky to find a niche that is big enough for me to tap into. It's reachable. Current products that are serving that niche are outdated and they're bloated. So some of the potential clients that I spoke to, they seem to be ready to start something new in this sense. So I validated for the first time ever. I didn't just start coding like most of the times I did before. So I did some of the homework and then I got and built the product. I spent about 150 hours, sent it around to 9 people that were waiting for it since December. 3 of them replied, unfortunately. The other ones I can't get in touch yet. But those 3 that I gave the product to, they were impressed. They're actually people who are using a specific product in the same industry. They were super impressed with how the product is. They haven't committed to paying yet. This is all words from them. So my next step is to put the payment link on because it doesn't have a Stripe on. Actually, I'm gonna go with Paddle this time around.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah.
All right, so we're gonna dig into all that stuff. We're gonna
Sure.
unpack it all. It does sound interesting how you came here. I mean, as some people may know, I've been working on Clarity Flow, the SaaS product, for also about 4 years now. And I'm sure there are some differences in where we are with our respective SaaS products, but it did come to a point about a year ago when I just decided like I just can't be all in on that one SaaS idea anymore. Part of it is like the trajectory of that business, and some plateaus and some challenges and things like that, and then the past year sort of like figuring out where do I go from here, and I'm still sort of figuring that out and having a mix of different projects and revenue streams and trying to kind of decide between them. It sounds like we came to a somewhat similar decision point sometime in the past 12 months. But I mean, Christian, where are you at today? I don't know exactly when you both recorded those previous podcasts, but where's your head at today for 2025?
Well, there's something you said that I need to address right away, which is that SaaS isn't the opportunity that it was, because people have been saying that since I got started in SaaS. Like, I don't know, what, 15 years ago or something. Yeah, when I first looked into it. And I hate this phrase, but the phrase goes, the best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago, and the second best time is today, which is not true, because like yesterday is somewhere between today and 15 years ago, but you get the idea. It's some, the normal distribution of the best times to plant a tree. Like, yeah, get started. I think there's no shortage of opportunities. I think, I'm incredibly excited about stuff like AI right now. Some of the stuff I'm seeing about this trend of vibe coding. Have you seen videos of this? It's these people who don't know how to code, or like know a little bit of code, who just use Cursor and Super Whisper, or like these really good speech to text engines, and you don't look at the code at all. You just talk to the LLM and get it to build your thing, and you can spin up MVPs of stuff like nothing, and I'm fascinated in like what this is gonna do to the market. And something that I'm seeing already is like you can get so much further without knowing what you're doing. So you can like spin up a landing page really quickly. You can
that is a really interesting thing. We need to unpack that too.
Yeah. So like what's going to happen? And I think there's a huge advantage for people like us who like have done this manually, who know what all the underlying stuff is, who can dig down into the abstractions that the
I think
LLM
that's
is
the
writing
key
with
thing.
Whisper.
Like getting into the technical side of actually building the products, I think that is the key advantage with AI today, is that folks like us who have product experience and technical experience
Yeah.
can use Cursor and these AI tools, 10x 50x more productively than a layman can use these AI tools. But that's to say, like, a person without any technical skills can get way further today than they could 3-5 years ago, right?
Yeah.
But still, like, I think a lot of people agree that, like, you can't build a true ready for prime time SaaS product in full without knowing how to actually put the pieces together and design a strong user experience and everything. But we can get so much further a lot faster now thanks to it. Interesting.
Yes. And, I don't think that's going to be true forever. I think it's in the same sort of way as, like, used to be that if you wanted to program computers, you had to know assembly, or you had to have the ability to work with punch cards. And that was true even after C got invented. Say it again.
And have a computer, actually.
And have a computer, yeah.
Right.
to have access to it. That's Malcolm Gladwell's whole thing about, like, Bill Gates having access to one of the only 5 computers in the world. And then for a little bit of time, for like this transition period, people who knew how that lower level worked, when you still had these when you had these new higher level abstractions, like being able to program in C, being able to have a programmable computer, still made sense to be able to pop down to that lower level. And then after a little while, you don't really need that lower level anymore. It's interesting academically, and sure, people who understand those lower levels can have a more solid foundation. But, like, abstraction after abstraction, once you get far enough, you don't need those lower levels of abstraction anymore. So, and things are just moving faster and faster. I think it's only a matter of time before you just have a conversation with your computer and it's able to act as if it was a 20-person team a couple of years ago of developers and coders and everything else. I think the person who ends up on top there, I think, is the core value that I think humans have is that we experience pain and we would like to alleviate
think
that
creatively
pain.
about workarounds and things like that.
Right. Like, how do you deliver the most value for a human at the end of the day? So that's where my mind's been at.
What I'm interested again, like, I really like to catch people who are in these transition phases, like in real time, as I think all three of us are. We've talked a bit about that we are getting maybe back into SaaS this year, but I'm curious to know from both of you, like, did you decide, or did you think or consider, like, alternatives? I mean, like, Val, you've been grinding on BlockMaker for the last four years. Like, did you think about, like, well, maybe I'm going to take my skills and do something else with my skills in 2025 other than a SaaS? Or Christian, like, have you thought about these, like, any alternatives to
you mean, like, change the profession completely, or just with what we're doing, like the skills?
I mean, because that's what I'm thinking about. Like, I technically, mostly what I do is I build SaaS products, but I'm also thinking about alternatives to build a business still in this industry without having to go all in on a single SaaS idea.
Yeah. I mean, my decision to start on this new product came about from wanting for so long to have a pure B2B play. And I kind of regret, I love BlockMaker, like, people love it. And I hate to say it, but I kind of regret for maybe pushing on it too hard for so long. I could have let it ride for a bit on its own and it could have been just the same. But then again, it's like the inspiration has to strike at some point, and I was inspired. Sort of a chain of events happened. Like, I was looking for a new B2B SaaS. I bought Rob's course. I don't know if you guys had a chance to look into it. He was supposed to write a book, and then for some reason they decided to make the book into a course. I bought the course. I listened through it, and he was speaking to me so much in B2B terms, and he kind of lined up with what I was thinking, like doing a new SaaS, a pure B2B play. And sort of like that got me into saying, hey, I really have to stop pushing on BlockMaker for so much, like, I have to start something new. And that was the thing that I wanted to do. Like, I love SaaS. I love B2B. I have some contract work. Like, that's how I pay the bills. On top of, BlockMaker not reaching the revenue that I need. But I want to get to the 10K and 20K or more, like, that's the only thing I know. like if I were to switch professions, I don't even know what I would do. Like I don't know,
I mean,
buy
that's
something
also
for,
where I end up too. Is like
yeah.
but I've been questioning it more than I ever have in my
Okay.
career in the
And
last
why is that?
couple. I think burnout from SaaS,
Okay.
to be
Okay.
completely
Yeah,
honest
that's
about it. I
true.
mean,
Yeah.
like putting like literally investing, because I think of it as an investment in terms of numbers of years of my career, like investing those years into this product or that product. And sometimes I look back, I'm proud of some of the wins that I've had in my career, but I also look back on some of those years. It's like those weren't. I didn't see a good ROI for those years,
Mm.
you know. And so I think about that now in 2025. Like, I build software. I mostly build SaaS software, mostly with Ruby on Rails, and right now I'm actually working on a product that is not going to be a SaaS model. It's going to be a Rails components library, so like a downloadable software licensed model. So that'll be sort of a new experiment. I used to do like WordPress themes back in the day, so like getting back into that sort of model. But I don't expect that to be like the be all end all. But that could be. It's a Rails components product that is designed to help me and others like rapidly spin up more and more SaaS ideas. And so then I could see that rolling into building and shipping multiple product ideas this year very fast. Maybe just like small bets you can think of them, or like a string of things that could work together. But the other thing that I'm thinking about is that the products themselves will have byproducts. Like I'm doing a lot of work on YouTube, trying to build up a channel there, like showing building in public. So building products is actually material for the YouTube channel. Like that's one way I'm thinking about it. It's content that can roll into growing maybe an audience like through this podcast and through that YouTube channel for builders and a community and that sort of play. And the products themselves, they might have their own revenue channels, but they're secondary to that. That could be one possible future for this, or one or two of these products actually hits, and then I start to focus more on that. The other, but also getting back into AI, I also think that the way that products get built today is very different, and so maybe I should be focusing more, and I am focusing now on building tools for the builders. I've always sort of liked the idea of like, who got rich in the gold rush, the people who sold the picks, right? I think now more than ever, both with AI, but also just the way that apps are built with component libraries these days, that's just interesting to me. So, I don't know, Christian, where are you at on all this? Like, did you think about like alternatives to doing the SaaS game again in 2025?
So I'm going to answer that question. It's going to take me a second. I was supposed to be a doctor, and all through high school, all through college, I did like the pre-med track, and you can major in whatever you want when you're pre-med. It just means like, I have to take biology and chemistry and a few other things and take the MCAT. So the major that I picked was computer science, because I was like, well, I love computers. I'm going to do that. And over when I was interviewing for medical schools, something that I kept hearing is, look, if you can do anything else, you should do something else. Because being a doctor sucks. Like, yeah, there's all this prestige to it, but like, do not do it for the prestige. Do not do it for the money, or you're going to be miserable. And I've seen that now in my adult life. Like I've seen people who went through that track and just sort of kept following the next path and became a doctor. And now they hate it. And now you're stuck because like, yeah, you're making all this money, but like, you're miserable. And I found that in making software. I cannot imagine doing anything else. There have been fantasies I've had of like, oh, maybe I could start like a handyman business, or I think it'd be fun to build a house. But like, no, I keep coming back to building software.
We had an electrician come work on my house the other day. I'm like, he's got a good little business over there, doesn't he? I'm like,
well, it's fun.
Be an electrician.
I'd enjoy that. Yeah, I wouldn't be miserable, and as a person, I feel like if I was, I really admire Alexander Solzhenitsyn of the wrote the Gulag Archipelago. He's in this like work camp in the Soviet Union, and he's able to find meaning and fulfillment being in that terrible position. So I don't mean to say if I had been a doctor or if I was working as an electrician, like, hey, you'd find a way to enjoy that. But like deep within my bones, there's just something that really resonates with me about the way that I like to work and the shape of problems and writing code. Like there's nothing else that I could imagine doing. So yeah, with I had some recent shakeups in what I was working on, and for the first time in my life was seriously considering getting a job. I've never had a full-time job. I went straight from college to working on File Inbox. I think I was incredibly fortunate. I think some things lined up really well that I've never had to actually work. I made some money in crypto also, so like there's no pressure, and certainly if this would be a long way off, but like if it was a choice between, can't pay the mortgage, can't afford food, or, you have to go work for Google, like, yeah, of course I would want to go to find a job. But like the thing that I really want to be doing, I've been doing a lot of soul searching over the last month. The thing that I want is, like Val said, that 10 to 20K MRR is a really comfortable amount of money. If you're talking to venture capitalists, they're like, what a terrible business. It only makes $20,000 a month. But as like a solo SaaS thing, that's great. And it's comfortable and flexible. And like, we have a young daughter, and I'm really enjoying being a father and being able to take flexible time off to hang out with her. And really important to me for a life fulfillment level to be able to have that freedom and flexibility. Like, that's the thing I want to be optimizing for. And then part of what I want in that fulfilling life is feeling like I have meaningful work, that I'm building stuff that's helping other people. And what I want that to look like is to have a SaaS. And so, yeah, I think that
I come back to a lot of the same things too. I mean, I get the most joy out of coming into this office and working on software products, designing solutions using software. Like I love that craft, right? I think the thing that I still that has started to turn that into a level of burnout is that as much as I love the product side, I mean, I don't love the marketing side to a point where I feel like where I sort of lose faith that marketing is even real to a certain extent in SaaS, because I really kind of think that like people might scream at their podcast player when they hear someone like me say this, but I feel like the winning products sort of market themselves. Like they just, not only they solve the problem, like the market demand, the wave is there. Justin talks about this all the time, like kind of riding an existing wave. That a lot of these products that end up winning, and winning can mean anything. Winning could just mean 10K a month, but like they win despite their shortfalls. They win despite the paper cuts, right? People are just looking for these products, and there's a lot of them, and there's inbound search volume, and there's, but I think the thing that I'm curious how you both think about this as you think about your next product. What is your how do you convince yourself that this is going to work? And I know that there's like the typical steps of like validation for like one customer at a time and everything, but like, like Val, like you got more than one customer on BlogMaker, but you're still looking for your next thing, right? Like, yeah. Like that, cause that's the thing for me too, is that like all the products I've ever launched got customers, but not all of them turned into long-term, successful, sustainable, growing businesses. The first couple thousand in revenue does not guarantee you're going to get into five figures,
Yeah. I think the worst thing in SaaS is to get some clients. It's the worst thing.
Yes.
It's better to get 0 clients than some.
100%.
Because then you hit a plateau and you're like, what the fuck? Like, do I sell it? Do I continue? Do I drop it, And I came to that conclusion kind of with BlogMaker before switching pricing from yearlies, which were super low, to monthlies, which are thankfully growing slowly, but still growing on its own. And then,
you did switch to monthly. I remember you had the yearly.
I did, and it's great. Like, it was $49 per year, which was, oh my God, so hard. So now it's $25 per month, and it's card up front, which is even interesting. Like, I've never done that. And it's pretty cool because there's no support tickets with $25 per month. With $49 per year, there were like tickets all day long, every day, just helping people with stuff. Yeah.
One thing about like finding yourself in this weird plateau area where you have like a decent start of a business, but then you're sort of frustrated. Like I've been in this in the last year, and it starts to free my mind to be more experimental. Like I don't care, like nothing to lose, right? So like one of the things I've been playing with over the last 5-6 months with Clarity Flow is like get rid of the trial. People pay up front on day one.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that actually worked. There was some churn issues, and then like we're reconfiguring some pricing options. But like I've been playing around with like no trial, go to a trial with a credit card, go back to no trial, and like just playing around with these things. It's kind of it is kind of liberating at a certain point where it's just like, well,
it is.
What I've been doing hasn't quite worked, so let's just get experimental.
I know, and to go back to your question initially that you asked, you said how, I'm paraphrasing, how are you sure that this will work? Like I'm not. I did some validation which I haven't done before with other products. I feel a little bit confident because of that. Like there's some room in SEO. SEO is not going to be my only channel. I plan to do some like cold outreach. I've already started in LinkedIn. It's working. The product is for a certain person in a company. It's not a team. Like in project management, you have a marketing manager, a traffic manager, graphic designer, developer. All these different types of people are using the same product. And it becomes very hard in marketing terms. Like, who do you market it to? Like, who's the decision maker? Is it the freelancer who just started in the company and saw a cool product and wants to introduce it to their boss? Is it the boss? You always have that game. Well, this product, it's like one person. Usually the entire department is like this person, and I can speak to them. Like I've already started speaking to them. However, with all this said, like the product is ready. I'm going to be putting paddle on it. Preparing it all for exit from the get-go. Like it's all, I want to package it. That's one of the reasons I want to use Paddle. Like I don't want to sell a company. I just want to hand the product with Paddle and all the clients and all the assets. Like I'm preparing everything to exit at some point. And
I've always taken that approach too with everything.
Yeah,
I've started so many businesses over the years, and like I just spin up a separate Stripe account for each one.
Yeah, but to sum it up, I haven't, I'm not yet punched in the face. Like, I have all this like honeymoon phase where I built the product, had these awesome conversations. Now I'll see, like, once I start, talking to potential people who are actually going to pay for it, and then I'll see, what's happening. I don't know. Like, I spent 150 hours building it, maybe about 50 finding the product, what I'm going to build, like talking to these people. So 200. If I see that, I'm launching it now, which is February, end of February. If I don't get maybe 10 payments by April, like probably shut it down. Payments are going to be like starting at $99 per month, which is amazing. Like I'm so excited for the price point, having, like being excited for making a sale because it's much bigger.
I think you are going about this validation process in a really smart way, because you've been someone that I've been following on Twitter for a while and popping into your podcast sometimes, and you've been extremely public. Like I love how you build in public and share so much.
Oh, thanks, man.
And it sounds like with this, like I don't even know what the website is. I don't know what the product is.
Yeah.
So clearly the only people who you are allowing to see this domain are the potential first paying customers, right?
Yes. And my wife and my son, that's it. Like nobody else knows about it. And honestly, I'm going to, one of the reasons I'm doing that, the niche is so small, it's kind of easy to get into this market, like that specific niche. And I don't want any competition, to be honest, like I've been so open with other products and saying, oh, there's plenty of room for everything else, but I have a family to feed, at the end of the day. Like I don't want somebody to come in and take that away from me, somebody who's much better, stronger, faster, has more money. I don't want them to grab into this little nugget that I found that I'm hoping is going to turn into the 10K.
Right,
that's the reason,
This is also something I want to get into is the idea of competition. We hear it all the time. We talked about it on that previous podcast here on the panel. I think one of the main reasons why SaaS is so much more difficult now, of course it was difficult 5-10 years ago too, but the competition is insane. And I feel like, and I could be totally wrong about this. Maybe I am. But I feel like every single category is competitive now, even the niches. right? And the other thing that I'm seeing is that, like, of course, like my SaaS has 20, 50 competitors, but customers are not only more demanding, or you have to reach a higher bar, they are just much more willing to just like, nope, a little bit of friction, little paperclip, nope, I'm gonna cancel that trial and go on to the next one. Like, it's so easy for them to just, like, especially in those like first 30 days of trying a new product, they're probably gonna try 5 or 6 until one is absolutely perfect. Val, I'm curious, like, you said like you're entering a market where there's not much competition, correct? Like, how did you think about
There
that?
is actually. There is.
Yeah.
There is a existing products are huge. They own the space. They're pretty big. Think of them as Salesforce. Like they've been around forever. They're super outdated. The biggest problem with them is that they're so bloated. The clients that are using them, they're having trouble even like introducing their new team member to like how to use a product. Like they have to train people to use this existing product. So like what I'm trying to build is something that is easy to learn by everybody, but at the same time does everything that they need to do. What I'm aiming for, like the keywords, the inbound, the keywords that I'm looking at, they have about 12K potential searches per month, which is incredible. I can rank for it. I can get up to like top 5 with it. So that's why I'm keeping it private. Like I don't want somebody to compete with me in that particular niche. And at some point, when I create a moat, hopefully, like I can maybe be more public about it. But what I will keep doing is just sharing everything around it. And I think it's still valuable because I'm going to be doing like outreach, like just super cold outreach. I'm going to treat it as a service business. And I've done that well in the past. And I think you mentioned before, burnout. One of the things that I've burned out once, like pretty badly, and several times, like in small bits. One of the biggest regrets is waiting for everything to happen online with the online product. Yes, the product is online, but it doesn't have to be, everything around it doesn't have to be online. Sales don't have to be online. We can fly out to a conference that doesn't maybe, we can spend maybe 3K to just meet people, potential clients. And another thing with this product is that it's B2B, and once the client starts using it, it's gonna be super hard to switch, because I've had that experience before. Like once a team gets in there, like 10 people, 20 people start using it, their company depends on it. It's like an operating system, and that was one of the criteria. Like I want to build an operating system for the company. In this, not the entire company, but this little department is going to be the operating system for them. It's going to be their Windows, their OS. That's that's it. Like they can't switch. That's my bet currently. Like I don't know what will happen in 2 months. Maybe I'll fall flat in my face and have nothing. But like this is the first time that I'm going more sort of organized into the battle.
For sure. I'm always fascinated. I love this idea of like, again, like this transition period for people like us, and choosing the next product and having a very specific checklist or criteria that we're looking for in what our next product is. And often that is a reaction from the previous one, right? Like these things were hard in that last business. Let's find a business that's easier in these ways and has these benefits. Christian, like, what are you thinking about in terms of like actual products? Like, do you have anything you're setting your sights on at this point, or what?
I do. Oh, I have so many points I wanted to say. I think I'll come up. But yeah. So the sorts of things I'm thinking about now are like, oh man, where do I start tackling this idea? So
don't do one of these Val things where you're not going to tell anyone what you're doing.
No. Yeah.
I'm making enemies all over.
Yeah.
It's terrible. I shouldn't have said anything about a new product. Should have said I'm a blog maker for the next 10 years.
Right.
So I really wish Justin was here because he gave this amazing talk at MicroConf. Gosh, it must have been like 4 or 5 years ago now, where he's talking about how, yes, of course, there's product market fit, but there's also the founder in this, and there's founder market fit, and there's founder product fit, and I think that's a lot of what the three of us are learning as we go through this. And Brian, the question you asked was like, how do you convince yourself this is going to work? And I feel like that framing is indicative of that. you're discounting the importance of the founder market fit. Like in times of my life where I'm working on something and I just feel like I'm burned out and I feel like I'm dragging on it, I feel like the thing that's pointing to is that there's not founder market or founder product fit. And, if I feel like I really have to just drag myself to my desk to do any sort of marketing, I think this is probably why you're reaching for something that's going to like market itself. And Val, I think this is probably why with this project you're going into it from the beginning, thinking about distribution, thinking about this market that you can do cold outreach in, where it's a specific person that you can reach out to. Like, yeah, in doing multiple things, I feel like we're zeroing in on ways to do distribution, ways to do marketing that don't feel painful. So this framing of like, how do you convince yourself this is going to work? I don't like that because it's iterative, right? Like the more things we do, the more things we learn. I don't like this framing that you're going to fall flat on your face, Val, if this thing doesn't succeed, because you will have learned so much. You have this hypothesis that like there's this market that's this niche that there's this opportunity to just do cold outreach and directly reach out to them.
I'm glad
you're going to learn so much.
I'm really glad you brought up that idea of like founder fit, and that's something I've been thinking so much about this year and leaning into. I feel like for the first time that the products that I'm working on right now are the most scratch my own itch product that I've ever worked on before. And I'm actually seeing it in my entire, like it's changed my entire approach to how I'm built. So I'm building these Rails components. Me and my team, we are actively using them. Like we actually are customer number one because we're using it to build apps for clients, and my own products. So like I'm like just choosing to build the things that I want to have in this product. I'm also hacking on like a block editor for Rails. Like what do I want in a block editor, and it came about because I was trying to do a thing with editing capability and there wasn't a good block editor. Right. Yep. So, I think it's, I love companies like Basecamp, like 37 Signals, and you can just see in how they decide to go after certain problems that it's just out of personal frustration and just like having a deep conviction of like, this should be better. This is how I want it. So I'm going to be opinionated about this thing and put it out there into the world. And if you resonate with what I'm actually fired up about, then that's maybe the beginnings of a spark of like this thing could resonate with customers. And then they tell their friends because they actually love the product that as much as I do. Like I use Clarity Flow and I've used my products before that I've built, but I think the idea, like compare that to these previous experiences of like having a SaaS and marketing it to a niche vertical that I am not personally in, and just finding those channels, and maybe going to these like trade shows where I'm a foreigner and I'm just kind of coming in and I'm doing customer research with people who I'm not actually in their shoes.
I got a taste of how that can work, by the way, doing this co-founder situation. Something that I loved about it was I was partnered with someone who is a deep industry expert, who has all the connections,
right,
who has done all the customer research, who knows the thing that needs to be built. I got to focus entirely on the software, and that was just blissful. I just get this nice little to-do list of like, here's the priorities of the features people are asking for, and I just get to zone out and like.
That's also a dream scenario too, where like where you have a co-founder relationship. I know that didn't last for you guys, but like the people who have this, like what Justin has with John with Transistor, like it just those are so hard to come by, but so valuable at the same time, especially when at least one of the founders is like deep in it themselves.
A new set of complexities, a new set of like
Sure.
it's a relationship then, and you need to make sure you're on the same page and aligned in the same sort of way. But yeah, specifically for solving distribution, that's a solution for distribution that I think can work really well. You're saying a lot
anything
of really
like firing you up, Christian? Like what are you thinking about in terms of products?
So a lot of the stuff you're saying about like scratching your own itch is where I've found myself. Build the thing that builds the thing is also a term that's been bouncing around in my head recently. Selling shovels in a gold rush also, like if I start off trying to build one thing and I realize this part of it kind of sucks, let me do this other thing about it. That's where my mind's at. And so the thing that has most of my attention lately, and talk to me in a week and I might be thinking about something totally different, but our babysitter this last week had a few family situations come up, and my wife was also out of town, so I found myself not able to like sit down at my desk and get work done, which I just, oh man, I just felt this itch of like, oh, there's so many things I want to build, so many things I want to do. And yeah, there's this cursor set up where I can just talk to the computer and get it to do stuff. And wouldn't it be great if I could just do that from my phone? And so then I started thinking about like, oh, well, what would have to be true? Like, is there an API for Cursor, or like, could I screen share into my computer and set up some sort of thing like that? And then I started thinking a whole lot about like AI agents and the movie Her from like 10 years ago. I don't know if either of you have seen that, but the interface for that is just, it's just a little AirPod where he's talking to this super advanced LLM effectively. And like, he's able to get, he publishes a book. He like goes through all his email. He's getting actual real work done while he's like out and about. I'm reminded of, I'll send you the link for this, but this guy named Brett Victor, who published this article, maybe 20 years ago at this point, called Humane Computing, where it's this whole research paper talking about how the way that we use computers is inhumane. And he defines inhumane as that it forces us to do things that aren't the way that we're supposed to be using our bodies and minds. So like the thing we're all doing right now is like sitting at a desk, kind of hunched over on a keyboard, and the way that we're pushing buttons is we're using a very small amount of our ability to move in space. We gotta like,
this is so true. Like literally right now, like my finger is hurting.
Yeah.
Because this morning, or just an hour ago, I was using Cursor like heavily. And it's not even from the typing and stuff. It's from interacting with the AI in Cursor. It's like clicking from between the chat window and the project and generating code and applying it and changing it. Like doing that like 1,000 times in a row. Like I'm actually like I'm physically sore from that.
That's so funny.
Yes.
Also, like, what a first world problem. But yeah, so like this is where my mind is at.
This idea of like AI is definitely speeding us up, but it's still requiring like a lot of typing and a lot of clicking just to get the prompts into Cursor.
Yes.
How does...
And I don't think, especially as AIs are improving, I think we're certainly not going to need that. I think we're barreling towards this future where we just have Her and we can talk to that level of model while we're like, out on a walk, or like, in the middle of pushing my daughter on a swing. If I have an idea, I can just tap a button or be like, oh, hey, I just had an idea for this whole page you can add to the website. Can you do that? So that's where my head's been at. Like, how close can we get to that today, where I could be doing real, meaningful, actual work from my phone? So that's turned into I'm building this AI agent that this might be a terrible idea, but I'm going to give it the keys to a virtual private server that's just like its computer. So I'm going to have an LLM that I'm talking to on my phone, very similar to like a ChatGPT interface, and then we'll do voice to text and all that stuff. And there might be tricks I can do with shortcuts where if I just have an idea, I can like hit a shortcut and send it a voice message. But then give it enough tools and function calls so that it could do anything that I could do at a computer. So like anything on a command line, interacting with tmux, so it can run like long run processes. This might be it. I may regret this, but I want to give it full access to my email of like read, write, compose, send emails, text messages through Twilio. Like I just want to see what happens if I have an agent where Git, like pulling all my source code for stuff and have a local repository of it and being able to edit it. Everything that Cursor's doing, I want to be able to have it do that with the goal of, so, in the same sort of way that you're building these Rails components library of like, this is enabling you to build other stuff. And then on the way there, it might be valuable for other people.
I love this idea of like, this is like the year of agents, right? In AI and the idea of moving beyond just a prompt, like question, get a response, to here's a project, go work on that. Yeah. And I'll be back in an hour to see what you came up with. You know, like,
I deleted all your email and messaged super racist things to everyone in your contacts. Right. Oh, great.
It's super interesting, man. Like one of those, like you were just saying about, the product that leads to the product. Yeah. Like I'm thinking about these Rails components, and right now I'm just trying to get that out the door. But the next step, and in talking to like pre-customers, like early access customer conversations, that a lot of it is pointing to like, well, how can like we use AI with this? And my thought is like that this, like having building the Rails components sort of builds in my own opinions on how a Rails app should be structured and all the commonly used features that I build into a Rails app. So handing all of those components over to the LLM, and then having the LLM like sort of trained on that to then spin up my Rails apps at command with my components and my opinions sort of built in.
Love it.
Into the training. That could be like an because I think we are also in this era now of like building with components. Like no matter what framework or tech stack you're on, like there's components everywhere, there's frameworks everywhere. So it's like that converging with AI, converging with some people with basic product chops. Things can come out a lot faster, which
I love that.
It's like good and bad. Coming back to that question of like competition coming up super fast, right?
That sort of component level organization is the place where I see LLMs fall over the most. So yeah, I love that idea of if you give an LLM building blocks and say, how do you fit these things together? That's where I've seen the best results. I want to say something really quick about competition because I've thought so much about this that like, Rob Walling has a great talk on this also where he's talking about how like your biggest competitor is probably email and Excel. And I want to go a step further than that of like, the entity that we're all competing with is like entropy. It's like human suffering is really who our competitor is. It's yeah, of course there's other people who we're kind of competing with to solve the same sorts of problems, but like Val, for your niche, I don't think you're if you looked at the total addressable market of the total people in this niche, and you looked at the competitors and like what percentage of the people in this niche are using one of my competitors versus what percentage of them are just having this problem that is solved by the thing that you're building and everyone else. I would wager so much money that like more than 90% of the people in this market don't even know that there's a solution to it, and it just hasn't quite crossed their mind that like this pain that they're experiencing every day has a solution for it. Like that's who you're going after. That's how I'm thinking about competition, and it just keeps getting reinforced over and over. Of like, look at how many competitors there are for LLMs, and they all have different strengths and weaknesses. And DeepSeek came out and has its own take on stuff.
Maybe we can start to guess what Val's product is with this question here. But like on that question of like competition, I mean I definitely agree. Sort of like traditionally that like a lot of times your alternative or your competitor is the spreadsheet or the email inbox or the written pad on your desk. But that I think in most categories that might have been more true 5 to 10 years ago, and today a lot of those spreadsheets are replaced with the big well-known the Salesforces, right? The big well-known players. It depends on the category, but like I feel like at least in the products I've worked on, most of the time making the sale is about convincing someone to switch away from something else that they're already paying for. It's like there's that give and take where it's like I like to see that customers do and are actively paying for products like this, which is a good first step of validation. Like people do buy software like this. But then like even if they're convinced that like mine is better, they're not yet convinced that like it's worth the effort of switching. And we could offer done with you, concierge, all this different stuff, but like that's the real challenge I think now. Getting them to switch and getting them to onboard and all that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of companies who are currently not using the software, believe it or not. They're using email for this problem, not even a spreadsheet, which was amazing to find out because they trust the email, the sort of documented nature of email, like how you sent it and both have copies of it. And that's like proof of something being done. So one of the challenges is that's one of the competitors. That's 100% true, So yeah, I mean, I just went, I'll come back to being, open about everything, but I'm trying this new thing where I was super open about every little detail I'm going to build this product, not in secret towards the buyer, but sort of just keep it like, share the lessons, but not uncover everything about it.
Yeah.
And the other reason...
It's really smart because you're going to get all this extra noise. If you
That's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say because I have a lot of friends now online, and even with BlogMaker, if I say something like I'll get at least 10 DMs, well-meaning DMs, just trying to give me advice, and that advice is not always the right one for that moment. Like it could be right for maybe sometimes in the future or maybe in the past, but this exact moment, I'm so invested in this thing that I kind of know where to go with it, and I don't want that noise, and dealing
Yep.
with that. So just want to keep it like very kosher, very clean. Try to sell it in these channels, and then see where I'm at like in a couple of months. But I'm
What would you
curious
say is
about
like
you,
the
Brian.
main?
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
go
Yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
I'll
Well,
keep my question.
yeah. So okay, like you're talk. I think you're in conversations with like 9 leads that you came to through LinkedIn.
Yes.
Um, what would you say is like your main selling point or angle that you're taking to them? Like they are, let's say they're probably aware of that big well-known player, or
Yeah.
maybe they currently use email. What is your answer or pitch to them to say like it's better because of this? Or how are you
Well,
thinking
I
about that?
haven't gotten to a point where I'm trying to sell it, but what I've heard from them is one of them said it's light years away from the current that big player we're using in terms of simplicity, like how easy it is to get something out of the door with this thing. That was one thing. So I'm just gathering messages. I don't even know, like to be honest, what the selling proposition is just yet. I'm trying to use their
Hmm.
language for it. What I'm doing is I'm recording a demo about just going through the product, making a demo account for them, all filled out with some dummy copy and everything, and then just having them play with it, and then compare it to what they're using, and just getting that feedback, that language. Just hey, what is this? Like
Hmm.
I kind of know what it is, but I want you to tell me what it is, and sort of
And
using that language in the next call.
so what
That's what
led
I'm.
you
That's your strategy.
so what led you to this product? You said that you saw some search volume. You said it's not super competitive. There's some big
Yeah.
players, and then it's sort of empty. But like, was there anything from a product standpoint where it's like I guess you said like you can make it simpler and cleaner and than the big
Yeah.
bloated players. But like,
So what led me to this exact product? It's not something I will use. I don't have use for it at
mhm,
all. Like it's not for me. It's for companies that are at least uh, with 30, 40, 50 people and above.
mhm,
Like it has to be a big team for this product. I've been doing similar things kind of for contract work for other clients. And what the biggest, thing that, I liked about it is that it is an operating system. I keep going back to that
mhm.
because, the switching cost is too huge. And I hate it when, somebody uses BlockMaker, and my idea with, cheap pricing was that, yeah, people will buy it and it will be a no-brainer. They'll renew it for ages. They'll never cancel. And a year comes up and they're like canceling like a 19-year dollar
Mhm.
product. And it's like, oh my God, like this is so bad. So
It's
I
like
want to
one of those like
avoid that.
one of those criterias that I've bounced back and forth on between the different products that I've worked on in the last
Yeah.
5-10 years is like I was working on this thing called Process Kit, which was like probably not too far off from your
Oh
previous.
yeah, I remember that.
Um,
Yes.
and like that was sort of like a process management tool, and the idea there was to sort of be the operating system for these agencies and this team and you know that was good that it can be really sticky if they adopt it, but the it's like a mountain to get over to get them to adopt it and build
Yeah.
out the processes, right? And then like going to Clarity Flow, it was like it started as a zip message, which it's super easy to just get up and running, record a message, send it to someone. Now it's
Hmm.
viral, right? Like super quick and easy and low onboarding. But then the challenge of like it's only valuable if you use it like every day continuously. It's not like
Yeah.
a set it and forget it type of value proposition.
Right.
Um,
Right. Right.
and now it's like evolved into Clarity Flow, which is trying to get back into that territory of like it's an operating system for a coaching business. And so I've bounced
Yeah.
back and forth, but like I feel like the holy grail is to find these product ideas that you buy it, you install it in your business, it does its
Hmm.
thing, and you don't have to touch it every single day in order to keep getting the value from it, right? Like
Exactly. Yeah.
like you know, like I don't know, I'm paying like QuickBooks for like bookkeeping, and I look at it like
Right.
once a quarter, um, stuff like
Yeah.
that. But
So yeah, that's what led me to it. But I was curious to know, like, the SaaS that you're thinking about, is it B2B? Is it B2C? Is it something that you're seriously want to go
I'm
into it? And what I'm curious mostly about is since you're doing Contract work, I would say, consulting with your team. Like, how do you plan to manage that? Because for me, it is a complete disaster. I cannot split my brain into
It's
doing
super
contract
tough.
work. It's so
It's the
hard. Like
hardest
right now, I
thing.
have a client. It's like, oh my God. Yeah. So
Where
I want
I'm
to hear
at
about
today
that.
with that on that last question on the consulting. So last year I launched this thing that I was marketing out there called 1 month app, where I would build an MVP in a month, which in reality is more like 2 or 3 months for each MVP.
Hmm.
And I did a bunch of those that started last year. I don't know, like 6 or 7 of them built and shipped.
Okay.
And then in the last quarter of 2024 into early 2025, I had 3 of those projects happening simultaneously. So like
Wow.
building 3 SaaS MVPs from zero to nothing at the same time, me plus a small team working with me, and that became too much. Like
Hmm.
just in the past month, like I decided that like that's beyond the limit of what I'm willing and capable of because I also need to carve out enough time every week to hack on my own products. Like I'm not
Right.
trying to just build an agency here. So I did make the decision a couple weeks ago that like, okay, I've just wrapped up this batch of projects. Now I'm setting a hard limit on the number of projects that I'm willing to take, and luckily like my best 2 clients are continuing on with some ongoing retainer work on those projects that we built the MVPs for. Um, so now it's basically like I'm giving these 2 awesome clients like priority access to my calendar,
Hmm.
and everything else is just waitlist or not available.
Okay.
So I've also reduced my team, so it's now just Clarity Flow is separate, but just for the consulting stuff, it's me plus 1 developer, um, and that's nice because it's like I could
Hmm.
more or less spend like 2 days, 2 to 3 days a week doing tasks on those projects, and then having sort of like the rest of that time and of the week to make progress on new products. I mean, the other thing, and this gets to your other question of like what I'm building, is that
Hmm.
it's much more integrated now. It's right now I'm focused on building these Rails components. So when I'm working on MVP projects for clients, we're making the Rails components better because we're using them
Hmm.
in the same
Oh,
projects.
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So we're able to like extract, like, the other day we built a billing system for a client. Okay, so now that became our billing component in
Oh,
our,
wow. Okay.
um, so that's number one in terms of like the next. I have a list of ideas that I would like to get to. I don't know which ones I'm actually going to break ground on and when, but they are all heavily leaning into like it has to be a tool that I personally want to use, and
Hmm.
it's scratching my own itch, and I have opinions about what's going to make this product perfectly fit my use case. And if nobody else likes that use case or
Right.
has that use case, then it's probably not going to be a product that's going to work very well. But I can build products so efficiently now that like I'm fine with taking an idea from idea to execution in under 30 days. And if that's all I invested into it, then that was fun.
Yep.
Um,
Hmm. Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
that's sort of how I'm so like I'm hoping that like between now and the end of the year, starting with the components, maybe I'll get to 2 or 3 or 4 of these tiny ideas between now and the end of the year, and then I feel like I'm going to learn a lot just between now and then, and by the end of the year, I'll have different opinions on where things go from there.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I'm sort of like I'm also going into this year with the assumption that nothing's going to work.
Okay.
Like I'm done with the idea of like I'm going to build a product and
Right.
this is going to be that home run that I've been wanting for
Right.
my whole career. Like it's
Right.
not.
Right. Right. I gave up on
I'm
that a long
I've
time
already
ago. Yeah.
accepted like this is not going to be a home run. I just want to
Hmm.
build a good thing that I want to use, and keep doing that. And along the way, I'm going to record
Yeah.
videos on YouTube and use the byproducts of building these products, and hopefully all this stuff will come together into something.
It's so
It's working.
funny.
I mean,
Like,
it's fine right now. I mean, that's the other thing.
yeah.
Going back to what Christian was saying earlier about like really loving this work. Like for me, that's always been extremely, extremely important. I do have
Hmm.
friends in this industry who don't love SaaS, but they are in SaaS.
Hmm.
Like they don't. you know, because it's like one of the best business models you can possibly be in if you're successful, you know.
Yeah.
But the idea of just grinding on a business that I don't like or selling to a market that's not me, that's tough, you know. So I'm trying to make sure that when I'm coming into this office every day, I'm psyched to be here, you know.
Yeah, and I think it has to do a lot with like, the people that you're selling to, at least with me, like how excited they are. Like if they're not excited, like I lose interest, And
Yep.
that has been the toughest thing with Block Maker, It's like people like it. I wish it was growing faster, but like it's that, you have some clients, there's about 500 clients right now. And it's like they love it, but at the same time you're like, oh my God, it's so slow, like it's killing me. So I think it has to do a lot with like how people are responding, and especially this initial positive feedback that I got for this new product, that was like, oh my God, this is great. But then again, I was holding myself back not to get excited, like you said, like, no, this is not going to be a home run. I'm just going to try it and see. It's like a balance. You don't want to be so pessimistic where it's like depressing. You sort of have like, I want to have the drive to keep going, but also I want to have like the wisdom to sort of not get too excited if it's not, and not go like for another 4 years, because with every product that I've made, like every time I make a product, I'm like, oh my God, I hope this is like this is it, because I have no other product left in me. And then a few years go by, and I'm like, oh, I got to start this new thing, It's like,
Let's take another crack at it.
Yeah, like when is this gonna end?
We're gonna wrap this up in a couple minutes. I mean, that sort of leads me right into the only other question I really wanted to ask you guys is like, how do you think about success? What does success look like for you this year? We're still at the start of the year, so like, again, we're thinking about these new products. Like, it would be great if by the end of the year things looked like this. What's your answer to that, Christian? What are you thinking?
I have thought so much about the word success, and for the longest time, I had this mantra of like 20K MRR. I just got to get to 20K MRR, and that's when I'm gonna like feel successful. And in playing that out, no, I won't. I'll just set a new goal, and it'll be 40K. And like the data confirms this. If hilariously, if you ask anyone at any level of net worth, how much money do you think you would need to feel like you had enough money? It's 2 to 4 times the amount they currently have.
Yep.
And if they're a millionaire, it's $2.5 million. And if they have $10 million, it's 20 to 40 million. And so the thing that I've been optimizing for and just kind of like sitting with is this idea that like I'm not optimizing for success at the level of the year. I think if my wife was listening to this, she'd get angry with me. She's like, no, I want to bring in this amount of money. I'm like, fair enough. So some money needs to be coming in the door, but like the amount that we actually need, I think is pretty modest. So the thing that I'm really trying to optimize for is like, what does a good day look like? And I think a good day looks like I'm doing work that feels meaningful, that I'm enjoying, that I feel like I'm like building towards a bigger thing. I really enjoy that. I need that in my life. Just feeling like I'm able to work on stuff. I want to spend time with my family. I want to exercise 3 times a week, and I want to sleep for 8 to 9 hours a night. And that to me is success. I think there is no greater success than that. There's no amount of money. If you said like, you can sacrifice one of those things and we'll give you $5 million right now, I think I'd honestly turn it down. I hope that I would turn that down. I don't think there's any one of those things that I would, that's worth that amount of money to me. And the sort of the closing thought that I want to have is, Brian, in the situation that you're describing of like, with Clarity Flow feeling like you can't be all in, and starting this Rails components thing, and also tying this back to Justin's talk about product founder fit. Oh man, and there's this really good talk. If you look at Alex Hormozy's YouTube channel and sort his videos by the most number of views, the top video in like the first 5 minutes addresses
in like small spurts before I just can't take it anymore.
He can be.
He's got like good ideas, but I'm just like, I can't.
Fair enough. Watch the first 5 minutes of his most popular video. But he addresses that. He's talking to a room full of entrepreneurs. It's this long talk, and he's like, the problem with you guys is you work on something until it gets hard, and then you see the grass is greener on the other side, and then you jump over to something else. But like the people that are, how might I frame this? Externally successful, stick with something, and I think the reason you stick with something is when you have that product founder fit. I think so, any one of these things that you're working on, Zip Message, when it was previously Zip Message, Clarity Flow, Process Kit, the 1 month app thing, like any one of these things, if you stuck with them, I'm sure you hit some sort of plateau of like it felt harder to get traction on it. But like if you stuck with it, if you really just did it for, I don't know, a year and just really put everything you had into that, any one of those things I would bet on. But I don't think that makes sense to do, not because the market's not there, but because I don't think you want to do it, and that's fine. But
I think that on most of those things I took them a step beyond, like maybe a year beyond that point, because so like Zip Message started over 4 years ago. Clarity Flow, I was on that for 3.5 years. So usually they cross some threshold of that idea of investing years of my career into one thing, at the expense of moving on to another idea that has the potential to work faster or better or solve some other problem. And maybe not money, but maybe it's enjoyment, maybe it's time, whatever it might be.
Sure.
But yeah, it's usually at some sort of calculation, and then it's also like a question of like, these businesses operate on runways, especially when it's not profitable. And living in Connecticut with a family and even and having a small team to run this thing, like profitability is, it's not like 4 digits MRR, like it's well above that, and like that's where the viability thing comes in, and then like maybe getting to the point of like, what does success look like? Because what a lot of people do in that position, and I know a lot of friends who've reached a similar plateau or slow to get traction position, maybe 3 to 4 years into one of these, either a bootstrapped or a fund strapped kind of SaaS. The move sometimes is to say, like, I'm going to keep being all in and I'm going to raise more investment. I'm going to do another round. I'm going to do maybe a B seed round or whatever they call those things, right? And I've just came like, no, I'm a bootstrapper. I did a little bit of investment at the start of Zip Message, and that also made the math a little bit murky as the years went on. And I'm just back to my basics of like consulting and hack on new products and see what comes of that,
Fair enough. I also don't want to get obnoxiously philosophical like that. There are real world limitations to how long you can stick with something.
But also something Val said earlier, like how you were spending like 4 years on BlogMaker and it's still running, right? But like you sort of feel a little bit of regret of like maybe not looking to that next thing earlier. Like I think you said something earlier about like,
I wish I'd started like a B2B earlier, but then again, like I didn't have the inspiration for this product. I could have started the wrong product,
Yep.
But then again, it is a bit long, Like I agree with you, Christian. Like I think there's a balance. Sticking with the thing, I think is very important, But the way I look at it, like I'm gonna stick with my goal of having 10, 20, 30K MRR. Like that's my goal. I'm sticking to that, but I'm gonna change the methods how I get to it. Like I'm gonna change the vehicle. Yeah. If like my Mercedes is not taking me there, like maybe another car will take me there faster and easier. Like one of my biggest inspirations is my wife. Like she has a store. She sells gifts and flowers and etc. They don't do much marketing. They have sales. It's not hard to run it. It's very easy. I like that, like I think successful businesses have that ease in them. I know people who try so hard and they have a really good business, but they work so hard, and it's like, I don't know if I'm cut for that. Like, I wouldn't like that. Like maybe I'll make the 50K, but if I'm working like super hard, like I like those things, Christian, you said before, like I value those things a lot. I want to hang out with my kids. I want to sleep 8-9 hours a night. I want to go to the gym. Like those are like non-negotiable for me. So like I want to keep that, and I want to have a business that, like you, Brian, said it in the beginning. Like I want the product to sort of sell itself. Like I'm gonna do the homework, I'm gonna do the selling, I'm gonna jumpstart the engine, but the business has to do its part too. Like the product has to work its part. If I'm doing all the work and the business is not doing its part, like that's not a business. Like I'm the engine. It's not the business, which it should be.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want
know if that makes
listeners or
sense.
viewers to get the wrong idea here. I think we've all been around the block with SaaS. We've all
Yeah.
built and sold products and businesses, right? So it's like we're not saying like don't do marketing or don't
Right,
build
exactly.
this or don't do that. Like we're going to go through the mechanics, but at the same time, there's only so much that we can actually control. Like we
Right.
can do the outreach, we can go to the trade shows, we can build the right product, we can have the right customer conversations. Like we do all, like these things are not new, right?
Right.
But the products that end up working, it's easy to sell. When I was working on audience ops, like sales conversations were conversations with friends, and this thing just sold itself. Like,
Here's the point I think
Yeah.
I'm trying to make. Like the thing that felt easy, I think that's an internal game more than it is an external game. That's the point I want to make. That I think it has much less to do with the market or who the people is that you're selling to, as much as it does like how do you feel working on this thing? How do you feel interacting with these sorts of people? Like with this AI agent I'm making, I can't lose. Like if I'm the only person who ever uses this thing, it's going to be great. It's going to help me like make the stuff that I want to make easier. I feel perfect internal alignment with working on this. It feels fun. It feels easy.
and you're learning a ton through the
right.
process of building it.
Exactly. And if you take that internal element away, if you were a genie and you were like, haha, I switched these neurons in your brain and now you feel awful when you work on it. Well, now it doesn't work. Even if it could be the best business in the world, it could be, that this thing, when I launch it is going to just take over and it's like perfectly timed and everything else. But like, if the way that I'm feeling about it is that I feel bad when I'm marketing this and like the whole thing falls apart.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. One analogy like comes to mind, like I'll make this quick. My son plays tennis and I take him to practices and everything. The way I see it is like the business is the player and the business person is the coach. And the coach can do all the right things, can put the player through different, drills and whatnot. But at the end of the day, like it really depends on that player, like how far the player will get. Like you can bring in the best coach in the world who maybe coached Sampras and Federer, etc., and give him any player, and if that business is not cut for the thing, like it's not going to work, So I think it's a matter of, sort of knowing if the thing is not working or not, and then moving on to something else potentially that can take you there quicker. I don't know if that makes sense, that analogy. So yeah,
I feel like we could just keep talking about this all day, but,
forever.
We'll wrap it up. But the thing that we are doing on this panel podcast is we're going to be coming back around to guests and inviting them back on for updates. I feel like we especially should hear some updates from both of you maybe later in the year on some progress on how this year shapes up. So Val, Christian, thanks so much for joining me. Sorry that Justin couldn't be here today. We'll have to get him on the next one.
Thank you. It was so much
Thank
fun.
you, man. It was great catching up. All right.